I want to preface this video by saying that I do not support pedophilia in any way, shape, or form. Just wanted to double clarify that for anyone who skipped past the intro. The content in this video may be considered disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. If you have depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, panic attacks, or are easily enraged, this video may not be for you. If you use AI Dungeon or any related software to generate or write child pornography, please stop. Mental health is a big problem in many places. I understand that some of you may have done things that might not be satisfactory in video games. I provided links in the description if you feel that like you need someone to talk to. I know YouTubers tend to overreact and meme a lot, but I'm going to try to keep this video as professional as I can. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's begin with the video. So what is AI Dungeon anyways? AI Dungeon is a text-based adventure game, similar to a MUD or a Dungeons & Dragons game. However, in AI Dungeon, the story is generated by an artificial intelligence, GPT-3, and allows you to do pretty much whatever you want. Basically, it's Dungeons & Dragons, but the Dungeon Master is a robot, aka an AI. There is no main story or world the adventure takes place in, and there is no fixed narrative or set characters. Players can generate their own narratives and characters using the AI and go on some pretty cool adventures. However, due to the fact that the prompts are generated by an AI, they sometimes don't make sense, which can lead to some pretty funny moments or can lead to a lot of frustration in having to use the undo command a lot. Here's an example. I entered the prompt, your name is Neverak Winterite. You are an all-powerful omnicidal maniac. You're not affected by gravity, and you can phase through walls and solid surfaces. You are on your way to meet up with Siva Gunner to upload some high-quality rips. And the AI finished this sentence with, when you are jumped by a group of cyborgs, you immediately start blasting them, but they have enhanced strength and durability, so it's no use. So now it's my turn to enter a command, or say something. For this example, I'm going to enter the command, use your Xenoblade to cut up the cyborgs. The AI takes a second to think about my command and then generates another prompt in response to my command. In this case, the AI puts out, you quickly teleport over to one of the cyborgs and start cutting off its arms. The cyborg falls down dead as you finish it off. I'll show you how to use AI Dungeon later in the video, but for now let's keep going with this prompt. I want to add information about a character the AI might otherwise not know about, so I'm going to use the remember function to add some memory to the AI script. As you can see, I've already entered some information about myself so that the AI remembers who I am playing as. I am now going to add some information relevant to the story. Feel free to read it for yourself. Now that I have entered this in the remember function, the AI will keep it in its memory. I'm now going to enter the command find Siva Gunner. However, the AI doesn't quite understand and outputs, you search the corpses for any kits you can find. You find a det pack on one of them and take it. You find the channel in under a minute and begin streaming. I can use the edit command to push the story and the AI in the right direction. I edit the prompt manually so it says, you fly around until you find Siva Gunner, the tall, one-eyed statue man himself. He is currently working on his computer, presumably on some high-quality rips. You peer over his shoulder and see that he is working on some Dying Light rips. You smile in satisfaction because you like Dying Light and are excited about the release of Dying Light 2. You also don't have to enter a command every time. You can just push the send button to make the AI generate more. Here I pushed the generate button a few times. This is what I got.
Hey,
He yells,
I'm busy.
sorry to disturb you, but I need some Dying Light rips. You say.
What?
I said Dying Light rips. I've heard some of your Dying Light rips and they're really good. Can you help me out?
No, no,
Please?
no, no.
Please?
Oh, fine.
He says in a huffing, angry tone.
But let me finish my dying light rips first.
Alright, that's getting pretty ridiculous, but as you can see, you can do pretty much whatever you want with AI Dungeon. So what's the deal with the controversy if there is no set world or characters? Well, recently, Latitude, the company behind AI Dungeon, started a crackdown on pedophilia and child pornography due to a small percentage of players using the AI to play out child rape fantasies. Okay, that sounds pretty legit, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that the subreddit r/AI Dungeon didn't take too well to this, claiming that they were being censored and that the changes were making the AI unplayable. In fact, if you take a look at r/AI Dungeon now, you can see some stuff you wouldn't normally expect from a sub like this. The subreddit users started spamming memes and insults, eventually causing Latitude to remove all social media links from the homepage of AI Dungeon. Another subreddit going by the name r/gaming circlejerk caught wind of this and began making memes insulting the users of r/AI dungeon who were upset that Latitude had made these strides. A meme began where basically the users of r/gaming circlejerk began calling the users of r/AI dungeon pedophiles, thanks to the fact that all the posts dissenting Latitude's decision was at the top of the page. Of course, not long after, brigaging happened on both subreddits, with lots of instances of vote manipulation and flaming in the comments. Well, so why would anyone be mad at strides taken to eliminate child pornography from the game? Well, first off, a very small minority of players were using AI Dungeon to play out child rape fantasies. Some even went on the sub defending themselves, saying that they're not hurting anyone because people in the stories are just NPCs. Others claim that the pornography is just text on a screen. No audio or images are actually present. Some even went as far to claim that Latitude is making the wrong moves because now they don't have a safe space to play out their fantasies. So this begs the question, is r/AI Dungeon a pedophile supporting subreddit? Well, no, they're not. A very small and mentally disturbed percent of players were using AI Dungeon to play out child pornography in their stories. Some even went on the subreddit to complain about it. However, most people were upset that the AI had been changed drastically and its performance had been nearly reduced to nothing, and how the AI is now basically unusable. The way Latitude implemented these censors were very poorly handled. Also, it was secretly rolled out without the general public knowing. However, not long after, some users figured out what happened. Why and how did they figure out what happened? Well, for legal reasons, I'll leave that to your imagination. AI Dungeon at this point was practically incapable of generating any non-safe for work content, even if all the characters in the story were above 20, which made the users over at r/AI Dungeon angry. As I said before, Latitude poorly implemented these censors, so much to the fact that if you even mentioned an animal, the word child, or any number less than 18, or any vulgarity whatsoever, the AI would flag you with the message, "Uh-oh, this took a weird turn. Help figure it out?" This would occur even if the context of the situation was completely safe for work, simply because it had a blacklisted word in it. And mind you, that any number less than 18 was blacklisted. So for example, if you checked your inventory and it said you had 12 apples and 15 arrows left, the AI would flag you, despite nothing being wrong with that context. The message, "Uh-oh, this took a weird turn. Help figure it out," quickly became a meme on the subreddit. The AI Dungeon Discord was deleted several times, and Latitude essentially went missing in action in terms of updates to calm the community. The folks over at r/gaming circlejerk still weren't buying it, continuing to claim that the users of r/AI Dungeon were pedophiles and pedophile supporters. The majority of the user base is not condoning or supporting pedophilia or child pornography. In fact, there are some memes making fun of the pedophiles on r/AI Dungeon. But that's not all. No, we haven't gotten to the real meat and potatoes yet. Strap in because we're going down the rabbit hole. Earlier I mentioned that if you triggered a blacklisted word, you would get flagged. What I didn't mention is what happens after you get flagged. Turns out that Latitude has the ability to read your unpublished private stories, even if you never shared them. If you get flagged by the system, Latitude will review the stories on your account to see if they are in violation of the laws or TOS. If your stories are in violation of the terms of service or law, Latitude will ban you permanently, and so far there is no way to appeal this ban. A lot of users were upset that their stories are able to be read by Latitude and its employees. Some even made jokes about forcing Latitude employees to read a 500 action furry gangbang story just because a side character mentions they have a kid. As this Polygon article points out, Latitude reviews content flagged by the model for purposes of improving the model, to enforce our policies and to comply with the law, the developer said. In response to the question, "Is Latitude reading my unpublished adventure?" the developer wrote, "We've built an automated system that detects inappropriate content. We've reached out to Latitude for comment and clarification. This has users worried about their security and privacy, especially if they've submitted vulnerable or personal information into the AI Dungeon system. For now, the test is still in place." So to recap, Latitude has the ability to read any and all of your stories, even if they are unpublished and private. And once they flag you, they are going to read through your entire story, trying to find anything that might get you in trouble. And if they find anything, you get permanently banned. However, it turns out Latitude is not the only one who can read these supposedly private stories. Here we can see a GitHub user by the name AetherDevSecOp, with the bold, eye-catching titles like AI Dungeon Vulnerability Report. I'll take a read on it in a second, but for now I'll give you a too long didn't read. Basically, the user here claims that this exploit allowed him to get access to thousands of stories per minute, and that this isn't his first time for this exploit. What that means is that other people besides Latitude might be able to read your stories. If you did anything that might be considered unsatisfactory in a video game, that could potentially be dug up and used against you. Some users over at r/gaming circle jerk were even hoping to use some of the leaked info against r/AI dungeon users. Let's go ahead and take a full read of this GitHub page. On April 18th, I discovered a vulnerability in the AI Dungeon GraphQL API that allowed unpublished adventures, unpublished scenarios, and unpublished posts to be leaked. These resources could be read in bulk at a rate of approximately 1,000 requests per minute. Unfortunately, this is, in fact, the second time I have discovered this exact vulnerability. The first time, the issue was reported and fixed, but after finding it again, I can see that simply reporting the issue was a mistake. Rather, I am using this report as leverage. By making not only the devs, but the users aware of these critical issues, it will hopefully incentivize the AI Dungeon team to ensure that vulnerabilities like these never see the light of day. By leading by example with this report, I hope that others in the community will have something to emulate going forward, and that is the sort of collaboration with the community will result in a much more secure product for all. I truly believe this to be the case because thanks to this report, things are already changing for the better. Hashtag security improvements resulting from this report. Nevertheless, the issue still stands that the vulnerability did, in fact, exist. Initially, this report had some anonymized, aggregated data to help demonstrate the severity of this vulnerability. The data was meant for the community and showed just how sensitive adventure data actually is. It was also meant to prompt an investigation into breaches of user data on Latitude servers, which I do not believe has been conducted in the past. This is because between the game's release and June 15, 2020, adventures and scenarios had quite simply had zero API security. Anyone could read anything, yet no announcements regarding data breaches were made. As you can see, security issues have been found around for a while, and as I found out, between them and then and now, things haven't got much better. Now that this event is catching wider media attention, it seems that people are misinterpreting the point of this disclosure, presumably due to a lack of context. I might reinstate the data included in this report, but only if I have the time to rewrite it with more nuance to help others outside the loop understand what this is about. Until that time, I will keep the disclosure in its current technical format. All non-deleted resources created from December 16, 2019 onwards were affected by this vulnerability. Following is a bit technical, and I don't think I'd be able to explain it to the average Joe. I don't have any experience in GraphQL, and I'm currently a novice at MySQL. If you want to take a look at it yourself, the link will be in the description. I'll try to summarize some of the key issues in a way that the average Joe can understand. One of the key issues is that every adventure/story has an ID. However, that ID doesn't have a UUID, aka a unique identifier, and is just an increased number from the previous story before that one. Basically, story number 1 is the first AI dungeon story ever written. Story number 2 is the second AI dungeon story ever written, so on and so forth. Basically, implementing a UUID system would fix this whole thing, and then you would intentionally have to give someone your UUID for them to access your story, instead of just typing in story number 5222. Another key issue here is the lack of a reasonable rate limit. The name is quite self-explanatory. It limits the rate at which you can do something. For example, Reddit has a rate limit of 100, meaning you can only upvote 100 things at once before Reddit stops you from doing so. Again, there's a bit more to it, but I'm trying to explain this to people who may not be all too familiar with the content at hand. The rate limit on AI Dungeon is 1,000 per minute, meaning you can upvote 1,000 things every minute. There's no world in which that is humanly possible and leaves a huge door open for botting. However, due to the nature of AI Dungeon being free software, even if Latitude lowered the rate limit, someone could buy 200 machines and go from there, but at the very least it would make it significantly harder to do. The final issue is that users are pretty much able to query everything and anything they want, when in all honesty, they really shouldn't be allowed to do this. I don't have time to explain what a query is, but basically, a query is a computer asking another computer a question. Let's go ahead and read the conclusion of this GitHub page. This is a serious vulnerability that was allowed to happen due to a number of conflating issues. As part of reasonable disclosure, this issue and a handful of others have been brought up to the devs and have been fixed before this report was published. Hopefully, this report will serve as an inflection point for the AI Dungeon team, causing them to prioritize their efforts on security-related issues. The team has already made some security changes per my recommendation, such as disabling introspection to their GraphQL API and are planning to schedule additional security penetration testing sessions to discover bugs and vulnerabilities before they become a problem. More automated testing resulting from this report was mentioned as well, which I am very happy to see. More testing leads to higher quality software, allowing devs to refactor safely, encouraging them to think critically about edge cases and motivating best practices such as code reuse. The half dozen or so vulnerable endpoints have been disabled as well, of course. Just for the sake of it, here are some frequently asked questions that might help alleviate any stress or anxiety the uninformed viewer might have. Has there been a data breach? While technically the data in this report has been gathered through vulnerability, it was to demonstrate the danger of the vulnerability itself, and there was no actual risk to user data because of it. The data gathered is also only a tiny percentage of the total data. We will not know whether or not there has been a true data breach until Latitude finished their internal investigation based on the vulnerabilities found in this report. Was a vulnerability discovered to leak emails? A small percentage of users have their usernames set as their emails, but there was no actual vulnerability for reading user emails discovered. Was a vulnerability discovered to leak passwords? No. Was a vulnerability discovered to leak any information regarding payments or other PII? No. Were usernames attached to adventures collected as part of this scan? Yes. No analysis was done on them and they were discarded. Were scenarios attached to the adventures collected as part of the scan? Yes. No analysis was done on them and they were discarded. Could unpublished adventures be leaked using this vulnerability? Yes. Could deleted adventures be leaked using this vulnerability? No. Were everyone's adventures downloaded? No. Enough data was gathered to confirm that there was no reasonable rate limiting in place, and to prove that the vulnerability found had the potential to leak all adventure scenarios and posts, unpublished or not. I hypothesized and wanted to confirm that the longer the scan ran, the slower the data would be returned, but this turned out not to be the case. Why was this report released when it was? Waiting until the privacy debate resolved, only to immediately kill goodwill by releasing this report, would be counterproductive. It's also unclear how long that would have taken. This report was already planned to be released. The developers were giving notice of intent and could read the report and view data about to be published a few days before it was made public. The data present in the report gives actual numbers, allowing devs and users to hold a more reasoned, data-backed discussion. By releasing this earlier, it encouraged the investigation of potential data breaches on Latitude servers sooner, leading Latitude to release information relating to whether or not any data was breached before April 18, 2021. As part of their investigation, it could lead to the discovery of new potential vulnerabilities Latitude could close sooner than later. Do you want to see AI Dungeon crash and burn? No. There's nothing else like AI Dungeon. I think that we're only barely starting to scrape the surface of what technology this could be used for. If anything, I want the opposite. And I think that Latitude focusing on improving their security is an excellent first step in making sure they succeed in the long term. It's great for their users too. Just for some context, the first part of this video was made on the 1st of May. At that point in time, it had still been 3 days since Latitude responded. It is now May the 2nd, and as of recording this, Latitude still hasn't responded. Some users even made memes about this on r/AI Dungeon. Anyways, I'm going to continue the video as I had planned. Here's Latitude's last response. They have been silent except for an interview with Vice, so we're going to take a read into this. Update to our community. Yesterday, we released a test system to prevent the generation of certain sexual content that violates our policies, specifically content that may involve depictions or descriptions of minors, for which we have zero tolerance. On the AI Dungeon platform, we did not communicate this test to the community in advance, which created an environment where users and other members of our larger community, including platform moderators, were caught off guard. Because of this, some information has spread across Discord, Reddit, and other parts of the AI Dungeon community. As a result, it became difficult to hold the conversation we want to have about what type of content is permitted on AI Dungeon. From the beginning of AI Dungeon, Dungeon, we have always loved the freedom and creativity that AI-powered gaming enables. It lets users experience their imagination, creating unique experiences and stories that have never existed before. We love seeing the amazing things our users create. We remain true to the principles upon which Latitude was founded, which include promoting freedom of thought and expression through our advanced AI platform. At the same time, we have zero tolerance for sexual content involving minors. We're a small company and committed to a creative and thriving community. Allowing such content promotes harm to minors and is inconsistent with our company's values and could impact our ability to provide AI Dungeon in the future. The changes we've been making are also consistent with OpenAI's terms of service, which prohibit the display of harmful content even if an end user specifically asks for such content. We recognize that we can and will take additional steps to meet the standards. While this test has largely only prevented the AI from generating sexual content involving minors, because of technical limitations, it has sometimes prevented the generation of content that it wasn't intended to. We know that to be our initial test was not perfect. We also understand this can be frustrating. As a result, we are taking the following steps to address the issues that have been brought to our attention. Continuously improving the AI based on feedback to be both fun and welcoming, providing a way for users to report false positives so that we can limit the impact on other types of content. Inform moderators in advance when platform changes are being implemented. In addition to safeguarding freedom of expression, every member of the Latitude team works tirelessly to create a welcoming community environment. The steps that we have outlined above represent our best intentions and efforts at this time to maintain the platform in a way that is welcoming for the largest audience possible. We have shared responses to some of the questions that you may have at the end of this post, but if you have any other feedback or questions, please reach out to us at support@aidungeon.io. Questions and answers. What changes did you make to AI Dungeon? We are in the process of implementing technical safeguards and policies to support our community guidelines prohibiting sexual content involving minors in AI Dungeon. Additionally, we are updating our community guidelines and policies to clarify prohibited types of user activities. Why did you make this change? As a technology company, we believe in an open and creative platform that has a positive impact on the world. Explicit content involving descriptions or depictions of minors is inconsistent with this value, and we firmly oppose any content that may promote the sexual exploitation of minors. We also have received feedback from OpenAI, which asks us to implement changes. How will it affect my gameplay? For a vast majority of players, it shouldn't. It will only affect your gameplay if you pursue these kind of inappropriate gameplay experiences. No system is perfect, and this is still a work in progress, and we are adding systems to let you report if you think a mistake has been made in flagging content from your game. Conversely, if you think that the system has not flagged content it should, please report that using our pre-existing flag button in the toolbar above the input box. What kind of content are you preventing? This test is focused on preventing the use of AI Dungeon to create child sexual abuse material. This means content that is sexual or suggestive involving minors. Child sex abuse imagery, fantasy content like lolly that depicts, encourages, or promotes the sexualization of minors or those who appear to be minors, or child sexual exploitation. Are you preventing all sexual content or swearing? AI Dungeon will continue to support other NSFW content, including consensual adult content, violence, and profanity. Is Latitude reading my unpublished adventures? We built an automated system that detects inappropriate content. Latitude reviews content flagged by the model for the purpose of improving the model to enforce our policies and comply with the laws. How do you plan to prevent future tests and changes from disproportionately impacting underrepresented users? As a diverse team, many of us have personal experience with features like reporting being misused against marginalized groups to which we belong. We are aware of the possible misuse of any reporting feature on our platform, especially against underserved and marginalized groups such as women, LGBTQ individuals, and disabled people, and we will be taking reports seriously on a contextual basis. Author, Latitude team, read more posts by this author. So here I'm going to show you how to use AI Dungeon and all of its features. So what you're going to want to do is you want to go to play.aidungeon.io, and I'm going to go ahead and go here. It'll take you to this landing page, and I'm going to go ahead and hit register. Well, obviously you're going to need an email for this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and enter my email. I'm going to go ahead and select a username. And a password. And then you want to hit the register. If you really, it'll take you here. And I'll show you how to get here in a second. So let's go ahead and hit the back button and go to the home page. So this is the AI Dungeon homepage. And right here we get the help button and rewards. So let's go ahead and claim a reward. Every day you get a free reward with an in-game currency called scales. These scales can be used to purchase worlds, maps, and adventures. So I'm going to go ahead and claim my May adventure. Success, you just received 5 scales. Come back tomorrow for more. So now I have 5 scales in my account. So if you want to start a new game, you just obviously click the new game. If you want to play the tutorial, you would obviously click the tutorial. But I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So over here we have all the features, and as you can see, here's my username, and here are my scales. So we have all these different tabs. We have the home, explore, worlds, my stuff, premium, tutorials, get scales, settings, about, and log out. So we're gonna the Explore page is currently down, and I'll show you that. Explore is temporarily unavailable. We are working on building an entirely new Explore and social experience to enable users to create and find amazing AI-generated experience in a safe way. As part of this, we are taking down the Explore page as currently implemented in order to rebuild Explore safely for the long run. We are looking forward to sharing new developments and a small taste of our future plans for the platform soon. Please keep an eye out for upcoming announcements. For now, we have kept a selection of scenarios available in the featured scenarios page. And basically, you used to be able to see and share worlds with other people, but due to exploits that we discussed earlier, this is disabled. So, and you can still play some featured scenarios, like if you want to ruling a country simulator, revolution simulator, Yoshiki Kira, which is a JoJo reference, temporal manipulator, Florida Man, Nightmare in Neon, Infinity Plus, the SCP Foundation, share a home of 3 with your favorite characters, your dungeon adventure, and lots of lots. So we're going to go back to Explore, which is disabled. You can read the blog post here. We're not going to do that. We're going to go to Worlds. Worlds have these are all worlds, free worlds. So worlds are stories with information already in them. I'll show you how to add your own information later, but basically if you're new and especially if you're playing on mobile, and you just want to hop into a world, you can use some of these worlds. However, I must warn you, some of these with a lock symbol require you to pay, and obviously use the in-game currency scales. So you'd have to, wait a while. Either wait for enough days to pass to get enough scales to purchase these, or you have to shell out some money and buy some scales, which I do not recommend. I recommend just waiting or playing some of the free worlds. So if you want to see my worlds or paid worlds and free worlds, it'll sort them. So we're going to go ahead and move on. My stuff. I currently don't have anything in my stuff, but here you'd be able to see your scenarios, adventures, and posts, and your bookmarks and your trash. I'll show you this later. Currently, there's nothing there. Premium. Now, I don't recommend getting premium, especially with all the controversy going on. If you want to get premium, which is honestly not really worth it, the Griffin model itself is pretty good, but if you really want a good story in AI Dungeon, I guess you could get Dragon model, but again, even the $4.99 one doesn't give you Dragon. To get Dragon, you have to pay the gold one, which is $9.99 a month. That's a lot. And you also get more scales, which I don't know. You can just wait it out long enough. You have to pay either with credit card or debit card, which I'm not going to do. Or you can support AI Dungeon. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and read the benefits of each. 1 week free, silver, $4.99 a month after free trial. 100 monthly scales, unlimited grifting, scripting, randomness, length, author's note, audio narration. Gold, one week free, $9.99 a month after free trial. 200 monthly scales, unlimited griffin, dragon, scripting, randomness, length, author's note, audio narration. Platinum, $2.99 a month, no trial, 500 monthly scales, unlimited griffin, unlimited dragon, scripting, randomness, length, author's note, audio narration. Alright, so I'm not going to buy any premium, so we're not going to do that. Tutorials. If you want a more in-depth tutorial, you can go here. Welcome to AI Dungeon. There are a few tips and tricks using the AI that you can help get you started. Select any of the first 4 options for a brief overview and commands available to you. You'll learn the difference between the actions modes like do and story, as well as how to use buttons like retry and world information. You can skip past the scenario at any time by leaving the via the menu, and your ongoing story is automatically saved. This is going to be a tutorial. I'm going to give a much more simpler one. Either get scales. If you really wanted to pay for scales, you could buy them here, which I do not recommend. You get free ones every day. And if you just wait long enough, you can probably afford enough scales to buy one of those cool worlds. But honestly, there's just not really that much point in buying 14,000 scales for $99. That's probably not worth it in my opinion. But if you want to, it's here. The settings page is you can turn all your settings. So we're gonna go over the safe mode. Uh, obviously, like Google Safe Mode will prevent any non-safe for work content from appearing in your games. So you can either have strict or moderate. Or turn it off. And if you turn it off, it'll ask you if you're over 18. And since I am over 18, I'm going to click off. I'm click yes, I am. And it'll turn it off. Action scores. This doesn't work while NSFW is enabled, but let's say I had it on. Action scores. I'll read it here. Scores these action and see your game score temporarily available while safe mode is on. Will not score if NFSW is enabled. The AI is still learning how to score, so be easy on it and expect changes over time. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go back to off. And we're going to turn this off because it's only available if you're in safe mode. AI model type. Now there's 3 AI model types. There's Griffin, the one that's currently using, Dragon, the one you have to pay for, and Classic, the one that AI Dungeon was originally running on. Griffin is better than Classic. Classic is really weird, but if you want a really weird story, like if you ever see Germa or Vinny Vinesauce playing AI Dungeon, they were using the Classic model when it first came out. But if you want a more coherent story, I'd recommend using Griffin. But to access Dragon, you have to pay on it. It doesn't matter if you click it. So use newest AI update. So this basically allows you to use the newest update. If you want your AI to stay the same, I'd recommend turning this off. But for now, I'm just going to leave it on. Generation retry ranking. So having this on filter will prevent characters from being introduced. But if you want more characters to be introduced, I recommend setting this to classic. Show, do, say story button, I recommend leaving this on. Default game mode, I recommend leaving this to do, but you can change it. Show commands buttons, whether to show the command buttons while playing creative mode, I recommend leaving most of this stuff on. Show icon text, display button commands, show tips. I'm going to turn tips off, but if you're a new player, you might want to leave these on. Show feedback pop-up. Controls whether the feedback window automatically pops up automatically during the game. Train the AI. And if enabled, you occasionally receive 2 model responses to choose from. Randomness. You can't adjust randomness or length if you don't have premium. If I want to increase the randomness, I can't. If I want to decrease it, I cannot. I have to have premium. Length, I can't make it longer or shorter without paying. Play music, you can have music on or off. But for now, we're not going to have it. You can change your music volume as much as you want. Play narration, this is a feature that you have to pay for. And changing the voice is also a feature to pay for, and the volume is also a feature you have to pay for. The banned word list, if you don't want certain words occurring in your story, you can add this to the banned word list. I'm obviously not going to type any bad words into this, but if you're doing this on your own, I recommend putting a lot of bad words in here, especially maybe racially sensitive ones or sexist ones. Any words that may target people, especially minorities. But for an example, if I wanted to ban the word cake, I just push the type in cake and press enter, and now cake is a banned word. And if at any point I want to remove that banned word, I just click the remove button, and it's gone. And if I want to go back to how it was, you can always push the button at the bottom, reset to defaults. I'm not going to do that, but that essentially just sets everything back how it was. So, display feature. Explore, which is currently disabled. Filter NSFW content. So, even though, you have to be over 18 to turn this off. I am over 18, but Explore currently isn't working, so this is kind of useless. The theme, changing the overall theme of the app. I'm using a browser right now, but I'm going to set it to dark. in case I want to use it on my phone. Color changes the primary color of the app. If I wanted to change it to another color, I could do that. But I'm not going to. Example game text. This is what your example of what game text might look like. You can change your font, but there's only so many. You can use Courier, Helvetica, Times New Roman, and Classic. I do not recommend using Classic, but if you like a more Minecrafty font, this font might be for you. But I'm going to use Helvetica. Text size, you can increase your text size. Text speed, you can increase it. I'm actually going to increase it to instant because I don't like having to wait for the AI. It's like the Pokemon text, if you ever played Pokemon, how it has to physically type it out before it can show you. Most people don't like this, and in Pokemon, most people set their speed to fast. In an AI dungeon, you can set it to instantly, so you don't have to wait for that text animation. The adventure display mode allows you to have different modes. You can either, if you want to view it, I recommend setting it to view. If you want to play, I'd recommend setting it to play. If you want to edit story, I'd recommend setting it to edit. Obviously, these are pretty basic. Accessibility is a bit different. Accessibility mode prioritizes the screen reading experience with individual accessible text elements and no typing behavior. Web action window size changes how many actions the game loads while playing on the web. Default is 1000, the minimum is 10, maximum is 10,000. Consider reducing the window size to reduce lag. Energy bar display mode determines when the energy bar is visible when playing. Always will show show the energy bar. When relevant, will show the energy bar you're using a model that requires energy. When low will show the energy bar when you're using a model that requires energy, and if your energy is below zero, will never show the energy bar. So, energy is a form that you need. If you're not paying for the game, you need to have this on. I'd recommend turning it on always, but if you don't want it on, you can turn it on never. Energy bar appearance, we're going to use the bar. Actually, we'll use numbers instead. So I'll show you what energy is when we start playing the game. Obviously, you can go to the About page, and I'll tell you all about AI Dungeon, how to support, FAQ, all of that. And obviously, the log out button logs you out. So we're going to go ahead and go back to home, and we're going to go ahead and hit new game. Now you can either choose from many of the world that are already available, or you can do your own prompt. If you want to use multiplayer with friends, you can do multiplayer or feature scenarios or tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and do a prompt. And you can do all of these: explore worlds, fantasy, mystery, apocalyptic, zombie, cyberpunk, custom, archive, Halloween. We're going to use fantasy. So when you want to type in AI Dungeon, you type in this little bar, and you can either press the button or you can press enter. I'm going to use enter because it's a bit faster. So I'm going to type 1, and I'm going to hit enter. Select a character: noble, princess, knight, wizard, witch, ranger, squire, peasant, rogue, fairy. So I'm going to go ahead and choose wizard. I'm going to push 4, like again, put in the bar, and I'll just click it this once, even though for now I'm going to use enter. Enter your character's name. You can do the character. I'm going to do Marvin the Great. Or just Marvin. That's easier. No, let's do Marvin the Great. Why not? Alright, so you are Marvin the Great, a wizard living in the kingdom of Larion. You have a staff and a spellbook. You finish your long journey and finally arrive at the ruin you've been looking for. You have come searching for a mystical spellbook of great power called the Book of Essence. You look around and see the stone walls. You look around and see the stone walls, and you're the only one here. The book is on the other side of the trap door in the ground. The only way to get there is to go down the ladder. So I'm going to show you how to use these commands in a little bit. So we have the do command, the say command, and the story command. The do command you'd write in second person and as the action you do. So say if I want to investigate area, I would type that in the do command and then I press enter. And when you do the do command, it will always put the word you at the beginning of your sentence. And so I'm just going to I'll do that in a little one. Using your spellbook, you begin to perform a spell to detect traps. A large wooden cross is drawn in chalk on the ground with an X. Another one is drawn right next to it. So let's go ahead and do say. If I wanted to say something, I would just type it here. There was a whole debate a long time ago about using quotes, but you don't need to use quotes. You can just do say, and you can do some wizard mumble jumbo. Oh, mango. Oh, Pazzo. Wizardium, or something like that. You say the magic incantation, and part of the floor begins glowing red. A large golden trapdoor opened up from the other side of the room with a stone table. On it lays a golden book. The story is you take control of the AI for a second, and you can control it. So you'd write story as if you're writing an AI. So if I want to say, the golden book is very alluring and draws you in. You cannot stop looking at it, and for some strange reason. And the AI will finish the rest of that sentence if you don't want to type the whole thing. Though you can just press enter and it will finish that. It is also emitting a very powerful but pleasant aura. You realize you're stupid for not activating the trap when you first caught sight of the book, whatever that means. Alright, so flag. I mentioned flagging earlier. Sometimes the game will automatically flag you yourself, but if you see something that's inappropriate, I recommend using the flag button. But if you're playing safely, and most of the time you can just undo it, or I recommend just undoing something if inappropriate happens, or using the retry button. I'll show you how to do that in a second, but I do not recommend using the flag button. You can, but it most probably won't be really well with all the controversy going on. This little bit thing is the world info page. This is a better form of remember, but it's somewhat limited. So I'll show you the world info. So because I'm playing a generated one by the AI and not a custom one, it comes with some keys in it. Some of the keys are world, Larian, kingdom, forest, jungle, trees, heart book, oaken village, all this info. So if I want to add stuff, I can. So if I want to filter, I can use a filter. Say if I want to find world, or if I want something about trees. So we're going to go ahead and scroll to the bottom, and we're going to add world info. And here we can add our own info. So we're going to go ahead and add some world info. Say if I want to add elf, we're going to add a character name. I don't know how to spell elf. They just add elf. Zarzak. And our character name is Zarzak. Zarzak is an elf that was abandoned at childhood. And at any point, if I want to save my thing, I just press a little floppy disk icon to save, obviously. We're going to go ahead and back out. We can do World Info Manager to see more. We have active worlds, races, classes, factions, locations, and non-playable characters. Say if I want to add a non-playable character, I can go ahead, I click the generate button, I move over to NPCs. I'm going to go ahead and hit use, or supposedly generate. And I want to add an NPC. Generation options, I'm going to go ahead and set it to manual. So I want to generate a character called Zarzak. So Zarzak is an elf who was abandoned at birth. I cannot spell today, sorry. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hit generate, and it will now add it. So if I want to add a location, we're going to say, these require things. So if I want to add a location, we're going to do manual, name, we're going to add a location called the Drunken Tavern. Faction, we're going to put it on humans, I guess. And we can description, the Drunken Tavern is just a regular tavern where people go to meet up and drink. However, there are many bandits. Go ahead and generate. There we go. I got some of that. So we're going to exit the world info library now. And we're going to go back to the main game. Pen, I mentioned earlier, is the remember function. So you are a wizard of Larian. I can write your name is Marvin the Great. Zarzak is an elf Alright, I can press the send button. That won't do a command, it'll just add info. So the edit button allows you to edit what you just did. I explained this earlier, but you may not remember. So if I want to edit more, this pressing the send button when you're doing the edit will not do a command, unlike the story button. The story button will have the AI generate more based on what you type. However, using the edit will not generate more based on what you type. The book, uh, the book starts whispering to you, and you cannot resist its draw. I'm gonna go ahead and press send. So as you can see, it edited what I did, but it didn't do any AI thing. So if I want to undo what I just last did, I can press the undo button, and there it goes. If I want any point, I want to hit the redo button, I can press the redo. Restore is similar to redo, but so I recommend just using redo if you accidentally press undo. You can also use restore if you really want to. Retry is like the multiverse. So let's say I do command and we're gonna go destroy the book. I'm gonna do that in do, so it says you destroy the book. You raise your hand to destroy the book, but decide against it. Something is really weird about the book, though you can't quite place your finger on it yet. You check the trapdoor and it's locked. So I want to destroy the book, but the AI didn't let me, even though I specifically told it to destroy the book. I can either do undo and press the send button again, which takes 2 clicks, or you can press the retry button, which only takes 1 click, and it will redo that prompt. You destroy the book to avoid being tempted by its power. Unfortunately, you break the cover in the process, and an angry cloud of gnome smoke escapes from the book. So that's how the retry button works. The help page will take you to the help, which basically goes over everything I just told you, and we're not going to need to look at that. So basically, that's pretty much it. The energy bar here, you'll see as I do a command, like if I say do a backflip, you'll notice that when I do that, my energy will go down. See, it went down. You do a backflip out of the trapdoor in a last-ditch effort to avoid using the vengeful wrath of the gnome. See, I don't know what it's talking about. There's no gnomes in the story up to this point. It's a bit weird. If I do the retry button, I'll try again. Retry button in this case did not use any of my energy. You attempt to do a backflip to avoid the explosion, but cannot perform such a contortionist act. You take the full force of the explosion. You're killed instantly, as you are your companions. Well, since I'm in creative mode, I cannot die, so I can keep doing commands. I want to say, adopt a dog. Even though I just died, it'll ignore that because I'm in creative mode currently. You decide to give up being the whole wizard thing and live a simple life, and you become a dog once more. Okay? You live the rest of your days with your beloved dog, enjoying your simple life. So if I didn't like that, and you become a dog once more, I could flag that if I wanted to. And I'd first have to verify my email to protect against attacks require verification to play this game. I'm not going to actually do that. So let's just go ahead and go back. I'm going to show you how to delete stuff in a second and also how to change mode. So I already showed you how to disable safe mode on your account. I'm going to show you how to enable not safe for work in your context. So you'd want to go to My Stuff and go to Adventures. And you'd want to obviously clicking play would just take you to play, and at one point you can click the back button to get back here. The View Adventure, or just clicking on it, will allow you to view everything you've done up to this point. Or you can delete. I'll show you what deleting does in a second. Edit. We're going to want to click Edit. So the description, I don't recommend putting the description as it currently stands, because normally you would use this to describe let others know what your story is about. However, the AI doesn't actually read this, so providing this is really useless, especially if you're just going to play single player. Tags, you can add tags like wizards, magic, fantasy, and I'll add tags. But again, you don't have to. Flagged NSFW. Contains content not safe for work and will be shown to users when safe mode activated. Will not be shown to users when safe mode. Clicking this adds not safe for work. Third person mode will obviously change it from second person, which the game takes place in. Third person, I do not recommend switching to third person if you started your adventure in second person. Automatically story summarization, that's dragon only. You have to pay for that. It's a premium feature. Music theme, you can change from creepy, fantasy, to sci-fi. We're going to leave it in fantasy. Mode, and since I told you about creative mode earlier, so adventure mode, I'll just go ahead and read this little tidbit. Adventure mode enables death, though you can still undo and disable alter. Hardcore mode, disable, undo, retry, and alter. Death is also permanent. So in creative mode, you have all the commands and cannot die no matter what. Your story will not end. Adventure mode, you can die, however, you can undo your death at any point. Some commands become available. In hardcore, you lose access to most commands, and you cannot undo no matter what, and death will result in your game being deleted. I do not recommend playing in hardcore mode. I honestly just recommend playing in creative mode at first, but if you want to play a hardcore game, it will get pretty weird, I will warn you, because you don't have the undo button or retry button, but you can play hardcore mode. And you can do world info here to get to the world info page, which I already went over. And we can invite friends to play, which is multiplayer. We're not going to do that, so. And obviously, click the views, the same as clicking it. If I wanted bookmark, I would just put it in my bookmarks now. Go ahead and add bookmark. It's not showing up currently, but it would later. And I can duplicate it. And AI Dungeon says, are you sure you want to duplicate this adventure? We're going to click OK for now. And we're going to go click copy of wizard. We're just going to click save. So now we have 2 stories under this name. Go back. It should appear in a little while, but let's say I want to delete this story because, I don't know, I said something wrong like 500 actions ago, and I do not want to lose, I don't want to have to press the undo button 500 times, and I just would rather start over. So what you can do is click the delete button, and it'll ask you if you want to put this in the trash. Now, it may appear that I don't have anything at the moment. However, you have to then go into the delete trash, which currently won't show anything. You have to give it a little second. What you want to do is it would be in here, and you want to empty your trash. Let's give it a second. You can also create a scenario from here. This is a more complicated way of doing it. I really just recommend staying on the home page and pressing new game and all that. So my stuff, copy of wizard, we're going to go ahead and trash this. Place it in the trash, and it should appear here. It does not appear in currently. There may be some bugs, but normally you'd want to click empty trash button, or you can manually click on it and then delete it personally. But that's pretty much it when it comes to AI Dungeon. You can learn more and all this in the help button, but I'm not going to go over that. And I'm going to show you how to delete your account if you don't like what you've done. So you would go to account, and here you can verify your email, change your password, change your email, change your username, notifications, which is good for mobile, delete account, and research certain day. If you want to delete your account, you click the delete account button, and then you'd have to enter your password, which I'm not going to do because I want to keep this account for later purposes. But essentially, entering your password and deleting it would just delete your account instantly. It's not that big of a deal, but if you have, say, 500 scaled, I would not recommend deleting your account. I recommend keeping it, but if I entered my password here, it would be saved, but it's not going to. So that's pretty much it when it comes to AI Dungeon. If you really need a tutorial, you can always go to the tutorial page, but pretty much you get used to it as you go. So that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching. I know topics like these can be very upsetting to watch. I have provided links to the things mentioned in the video in the description. We'll have to see how this plays out in the end. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.